within a year or two, they'll get frustrated and buy a new one and keep our business going.
Right.
Yes, Lord.
That's where we're at. So there's a big difference between millennials and Zoomers. Is that, there was a point in time where we knew how to fix some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing about us is that we adapt more to our surroundings.
We had to
adapt because we've been through so many generations. Like we've been through
change.
decades. How many decades have we been through? So it's like for us, we adapt to things more. Where like the older generation, they were used to one way, and even now, like I watch them. Like for instance, I watch my professor. Like he hates this whole virtual learning stuff. Like 70.
Is he a boomer or is he a Gen Z or Gen X?
I think he might be a boomer.
Oh yeah, they hate it.
No. Yeah, maybe. I'm trying to, yeah. But he hates it. But then there's like me, and I'm like the age of like some of my professors. So like me and some of my professors now, like, because my one professor is like 3 years old. Hate it. We don't like it. Like, you know what I mean? But we have adapted to it.
Yeah, well, we grew up where change became rapid.
Right. So because there was like when we were young, there was no computer. Then like computers started coming out, and then
computers were coming out.
Right.
We went from in our lifetime vinyls of 45 to cassettes to mini discs to CDs to MP3s to streaming, all within 30 years. Exactly. We did all of that. Then we did Betamax, VHS, DVDs, up to Blu-ray, and now we're streaming that. Like we went through all of that for our media very quickly.
We went from brick phones to flip phones to razor phones.
Technically, we went from the phones that had a satchel that you wore across, and then we had the card phones. And
if you were lucky, there were a tiny, brief, just tiny little group.
Really? Because had beepers. I remember beepers.
Beepers and pagers. See, that was something else. You had to go find the phone. Right. I got a page. Can I use your phone? We're still in a generation that I bet you right now, if you used a payphone, if you found one and used it, you're going to check for loose change in the little change dropping thing.
Yeah.
Now you a crack.
Yep. So you don't put your finger in it like this is a loose thing. Right. So we're used to rapid change. We're used to things not being around so long. We're used to video games changing as rapidly as they have.
Right.
Oh, that's something else that pisses off the Zoomers. Anybody else here play video games?
No.
Anybody else? A gamer?
I've played them, but I'm not faithful to it.
All right, so something else, if you're ever interested, that pisses off the Zoomers and the Generation A's is that the basic concepts of video games is the same. So there's like, I got to find an article, but basically breaks it down. There's like 7 different types of video games, and that's it. And that includes, first-person shooter and RPG. Like, they haven't changed. And our generation was a big test group for that. So was Generation X. The two of us, so a lot of the very basic video game skill sets on how to navigate games and all that stuff, we already learned them. And what pisses them off is when Zoomers and Generation A's, Generation Alphas will come and they're like, hey, I got this game I learned. I bet you're going to suck at it. The same way we did. We played our parents. We would have whooped their ass because they didn't grow up with that shit. But then we sit down and you give us, enough time, we're going to dominate it because this ain't nothing new. This is the same as Mortal Kombat 2. It's like it ain't nothing. It's the same thing I played before. Mm-hmm. Just let me know what the buttons do. All right, I'm done. I did it. Like, ain't nothing new.
Right.
And we're used to that change. You are correct. Alicia, you're correct. We are used to that change, and people before us are not. That's why a lot of boomers have issues with digital currency situations. They want hard copy paper checks. And they don't like not being able to write it down.
You know, as soon as we came adults, who balances their checkbook?
No, wait, hold on, wait. Elise, you have a physical, written paper and ink hard copy checkbook.
A hard copy, no. Digital, yes.
Oh, see, okay then.
Digital. I'm talking about this. Talking about
I'm sorry, my
balancing-
bad. Hold on. Yeah.
I'm talking about balancing your checkbook.
Yeah.
Like how my grandma used to sit there with hers, and every time she bought something, my grandma would be in her checkbook.
I don't write
and
checks
she
as much as
balancing it out.
I haven't been writing checks as much now because I've been on forbearance for my student loans and stuff. But I write checks out for all of my student loans.
Everything now, like there was a point in time where like even the water company never accepted credit cards or anything. They only accepted checks.
Yep.
Like,
Now the
this is
fee.
just
The fee for using a check.
No, it's not.
Where it's not?
Sally Mae and Nevia did not charge me.
Oh, no,
Okay, the college. I'm talking about utilities.
Yeah.
That never happened for me either. When
Man,
I
the
was
college debt. You can use gold doubloons and they'll take whatever.
No, when I was living in Philly and had to pay utilities, I guess I didn't really pay attention to see if whether or not me paying via check charged me, but I did it anyway. Like so.
Yeah, I know how to do it.
Now, like it was when I started paying when I moved into my house, when I moved, not my apartment, but I moved into a house, and I was setting up all my utilities and everything, and I was like, okay, this can be set up on my credit card, this can be set up on my credit card, this can be set up on my credit card.
Yep.
I got down to the water bill, and they're like, we only accept check or cash. And I'm like, what? Like
Paper?
I mean, I gotta come in, like I gotta physically show up to pay my bill.
Yup.
Oh, hell no.
One of my favorite quotes is in the movie Hackers, man. The plague, he was like, ew, hard copy. He was so
Oh, I was so hard.
so like, ew.
I was
Yup.
like,
Listen, I like my paper trail. I do.
I do
Eugene
too, but
the
I
Plague
like it
Belford.
digitally. I like my hard copies digitally. Everything, send it to my email. So I have all my folders with all my receipts in my email, where anybody who has ever sent me any type of digital receipt that I got, it all goes into my folder. Yep. So if I ever need anything that's a receipt wise, it's all there for me. But that's digitally. I don't have, if I had to do like our parents did and our grandparents did, putting it on this paper and setting it aside.
File cabinets.
Yo,
File cabinets. Drawers. Drawers.
I have whole folders. I have hard copy of all of my taxes since 2009.
That's different.
That's smart. That's smart.
Taxes are different. I'm talking about like when we moved my grandma out of her house, like when my grandma had them boxes full of like receipts and her checkbooks that she balanced out, like how much money she started with in a month on down, like groceries, utilities, and I'm like, yo, like.
So check this out.
These days, typically.
That's nothing. I was working for the housing authority. Everything was done by paper. Every single action took about 11 pieces of paper. Some of these people's files were fucking bulletproof, I swear. And I mean, they're like 7 inches thick of just solid paper.
That's crazy.
And some of them had 2 of them. Some people had 2 of them. Like it wouldn't hold no more in this like phone book size file that's this thick. So we had to start another one for the same person, a part 2. Nope. No, and then if someone lost the file, oh no, we can't even work on it. I don't know where it's at. No one knows where it is. It's just gone.
I'm just saying, we come from a very unique
We do.
generation.
We do. It's awesome.
Very
I love it.
generation, and I feel we have like this younger generation. I'm very shocked and surprised at them, and I am proud of them just because they are on a different level than we are when it comes to acceptance. Like
They
I look
are.
at
There's
like
that
how
for sure.
they accept anything and everything. And they don't
Well,
have
that
a
doesn't sound pretty good.
they don't have a boundary. Like
But like, I don't see why
It
that's such a
goes-
bad
it
thing.
goes
Like,
a
it'd be
little
different
too
if they're like,
far.
I
no,
love
I
serial
don't think
killers,
that
but
I
they're
don't think
like,
it's a bad thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing.
I
I'm
think
just
it can be a bad thing. Like it goes a little too far. Like that, you can't just be cool with everything. Like you just have no boundaries at all.
what? I
No
mean,
boundaries is worse than having too many.
I don't know if I believe that there are no boundaries at all because I mean they still reject things like people who just want to hate for the sake of wanting to hate another group, but they're the first ones to
Okay.
jump in and be like, you can't do that. So I don't think that they're not accepting of racism and sexism and stuff like that. So there are things that they are rejecting. But if we're looking at things that are just like positive or whatever, just like accepting a person for being who they are, as long as they're not hurting them or somebody else, why do I have to have an opinion about it? Like,
no, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that when it comes to accepting everything, they like we look at our generation and how we draw the line on certain things. Like there are just certain things that we draw a line on. And for instance, this whole Rihanna thing, people are not accepted of using the Bible or other people's, religion as something that it to be played with. That's that right there where I feel that this younger generation will kind of just be like, it's just words. It's like, nigga, what? Like, it's just words. I feel that when it comes to things like that, like
You know
there
what?
is no boundary.
Yeah, things definitely change as generations progress.
It's like a anything goes society now.
Right.
But like, at the same time, nothing goes. Everything's canceled.
I mean, you know, I mean, like, we have
Everything
I
goes
look at
until it
even things
doesn't.
like, like for instance, like all this in society right now that we're talking. I mean, like as far as what is it? Like these kids, like these young girls that are having sex with these teachers, and like,
going on forever.
That's not nothing new at all.
but listen, you're right. But even like pregnancy, look at pregnancy. Like before, when our parents' generation, like if you got pregnant, like they sent you to the school in the back. Like they sent you to the trailer in the back, and they thought like you were the worst.
You're going to the
Really
pregnancy
ever.
trailer.
Here's what I will say. Okay, I graduated in high school. I graduated from high school in 2007. And my sister graduated from high school, I want to say in 2012 or 13. Regardless, when we talk about pregnancy, I remember every year, all 4 years, what did you guys do over the summer? Got pregnant, had a baby, got pregnant, had a baby, got pregnant, had a baby. To the point where by the time I was in the 11th grade, there were at least 9 girls in just my grade alone who were pregnant.
That's
now,
it?
hold up. No, hold. I said just in my grade. I didn't even talk about the other 4. But here's my whole thing.
Just 9.
But here's my whole thing. When my sister graduated, she said that in all 4 years of her being in high school, there was maybe only 3 girls who were pregnant.
Now,
So-
because sexual education was different. I remember Planned Parenthood.
Just don't do
Yeah,
it. That's not a
there we
thing.
go.
Now I want to.
But how about that? Like, I remember this too, because I had the same issue, man. Like pregnancy was like an airborne disease in my high school. I don't know what was going on, but
Right.
it was just rampant. But I remember when Planned Parenthood was trying to send, I want to call them secret agents, because they would do is they would arm these teenagers with condoms and tell them to go in there and like give them out, like. But it was like this secret thing though. Like you had to know who had the secret stash of free condoms. Like it wasn't just as
Yeah.
everybody here.
Here's the crazy thing. I don't think that my sister had a health class. That's the crazy part.
Wow.
Like I don't think that health class is a thing. I think they make it like a part of gym, which is not the same thing. But like also it's not like one is physical where it's like you're supposed to be jumping and running and whatever.
Well, I say that because our gym teachers taught health, so I don't know.
Okay, but they're still not the same subject. Anyway, so it's like even if they were teaching it, they still don't fully teach all about health in general. Like when we get to the sex stuff, it's like this is a penis, this is vagina, here are STDs, the end. Like
yeah, like ew, don't do it.
Right. So it's like they don't get into women's health, and they don't get into infertility, they don't get into consent, they don't get into like they don't get into anything as far as what health is concerned. And if in some cases they might have gotten rid of it altogether. I remember when I was in grade school, we had to send home permission slips as to whether or not we were even allowed to have sex education. Like our parents had to
in elementary school.
Yep.
Yeah, because 6th grade is when we started ours.
Yep.
Okay, all right. Well, mine went to 5th grade. We didn't have none of that.
Yeah. Well, my elementary school went from kindergarten to 8th grade. So.
Oh, okay, all right. Middle school definitely had that. Okay.
Yeah,
but
like, we still had a permission slip. Like our parents had to
elementary school in 6th grade. In 6th grade we watched ejaculation and how, they gave us this big video of how a baby is done, how it's made. You got
what was it, like a cartoon?
Yeah. How was this shown? This was people.
It was not a cartoon. It was a movie. So
it was
I
porn.
don't want to ask. Feeling like
this is porn. Y'all you watch
porn. So it's porn with a narrator. With a narrator English.
Listen. This is, I'm gonna tell you what the movie was. So we had like it was like a series. So we spent 3 days talking about in health class. It was like 3 days where
3-day ejaculations.
I'm sorry. I'm listening.
3-day ejaculation though, for real.
Cheers, 3 days. You said 3 days.
I'm trying to tell you how it went.
All right, I'm listening.
All right.
It was 3 days. So they taught us about the woman's body first. Then they talked about the man's body. Then they talked about how a baby was
born,
yes.
Created.
So that created. There you go. So then they kind of talked us up for the first 2 days about man's body, woman's body. And then the 3rd day, we talked about sex and how a baby was created. So then they would show how like the man would ejaculate, and it would the visual was a cam. It looked like a camera in a woman's vagina.
Oh, that one. I've seen that one.
Yeah. And they just showed the ejaculation.
I still don't know what's going on.
Wait, but hold on, wait, Sherelle, didn't you go to like a Christian school though?
No.
Oh, you didn't? No.
So they showed the ejaculation into the woman's vagina. It showed the sperm swimming, and then it came to like it was kind of like a 3D of like what the egg looked like and how the sperm would. And then they talked about how the baby would form over the 9 months.
Wow.
Then they showed the baby being born, and it ruined everybody's life. Yes.
Hey, that's for real. That'll keep you from having kids. I'm telling you.
I was in 6th grade. Okay. So they did it because that's the beginning of puberty. That's when
Oh, I know why.
most of us started our periods and all that good stuff. So we got all of that. And it just, and then when we went into middle school, because my middle school was 7th and 8th grade, when we went into middle school, then we got in a little bit deeper in health class about, you know, if you have
STD.
unprotected sex, and then they showed us all the freaking STDs, and I
They
was
show you the
like,
most extreme cases of like the most horrific
yes. They showed herpes.
photos.
That's why, like,
You look
everybody
at him
was
like,
like,
I
"You
ain't
gotta go
never
through it.
seen
You
nothing
got
that look
herpes."
like that before. And this is how bad it gets.
It was like, if you got syphilis and you didn't treat it for 25 years, this is what's going to happen.
No, but they showed, like, the one health teacher was talking about how, like, they showed, like, the extreme picture of herpes, and it was like coming out of the top of, like, it opened up the urethra of
Wait, was it that cauliflower picture?
because
That's the blue waffle.
Yeah, the cauliflower joint.
yeah, and
that's
yo,
foul.
all the dudes in my class.
But see, they only
right.
ever showed women. They never showed men with their shit falling off. And he used to piss me
They
off.
did at my school. Or maybe you got the abridged version. We got all the
Like, but
extended episodes.
my whole thing is that they don't specify that men are the ones who give them that shit. Like, it just, like, she doesn't just produce STDs from her vagina. Like,
Hey man, all I know it was definitely a horror show of stuff.
See, but this is what I find hilarious. Despite the fact that we all
It ain't stop
some form
nobody.
of a health class, you still get people even at our age who are like, I don't get tested, or I don't need to go get tested, or I'm clean, or I'm this, or I'm not, and they'll give you every excuse in the book to not go get tested and everything else, whatever, or try to make you feel bad for asking if you do. And it's been this whole entire thing to the point where it's just like, but you went to school, you got this education, you understand this is a thing or whatever. Why are you so afraid? And it's like, okay, so you saw those pictures, and because your dick or your vagina don't look like those pictures, you think that you're okay? It's like,
No, I got you, but I think what's changing, which is a good thing in changing her, I think our generation still has a bit of shame and embarrassment and this anxiety with going to get tested. But I think the next generation is not quite the same way about it.
Well, STDs aren't a thing anymore. They're
open
STIs
about it. They are very.
Well, you know what? One of my kids, instead of using protection, he uses tests in place of protection.
Oh yeah, no, that's a no for me.
Yeah, so like what he'll do is he's like, Miss, you're supposed to get tested every time you have sex, right?
No.
I was like,
No.
Every time you have sex with a new partner, like, you're supposed to get tested, right? And I'm like, well,
I mean, that's a good practice, but we're talking about prevention as well. What the fuck?
Right.
He didn't like condoms, so what he would do is go get tested every single, or if he messed with somebody that he thought was a thought.
But my whole thing is,
and what he would do is just go and get a gonorrhea, chlamydia. Like, he would go and get the medicine, get a gonorrhea shot and chlamydia pills or whatever pill in place of using any kind of condom.
So what if you come in contact with herpes? There is nothing you can put on it to get rid of it at that point. Like gonorrhea and chlamydia, you're right.
We tried to tell him.
Don't go away.
We tried to tell him, and then they even put him on Truvada. I think ain't that what it's called, Truvada, to prevent HIV and AIDS, just in case, because he refused to use any kind of protection.
Rule of thumb is supposed to be every year if you're with the same partner, and every 6 months if your partner has changed. Like,
well, his rule is every single time I have sex, I'm just gonna go do that.
That's the same as people wanting to take Plan B every single time they get have sex instead of just being on birth control.
That would be the most painful situation, wouldn't it? That'd be horrible.
No. Plan B is like
Plan B is
super,
not.
like
it's like birth control.
Period.
I got you, but like, isn't a situation where like the uterus purges the next day?
No.
It will make you have your period.
Again, purges the next day.
Not every
We're
time.
used to having our periods, so it's not like it's a big deal. I'd rather see my period.
You just end up having your period sooner. It's not like it turns into a mega period. So
no, I'm not saying it's gonna be worse, but I mean, from what I understand, y'all don't enjoy that much anyway. So
every period isn't painful though.
No, it's not.
That's good. Nope, still don't want to be a woman. Have no desire.
And you're also not doing oh my goodness, I can't even think of the word. You're not having an abortion because it says within 72 hours, so that's not happening either. Whenever you take Plan B. So
yeah, no.
Common misconception of Plan B.
But you know what I think it's a little bit different. You mentioned it earlier about your younger sister not having as many pregnancies during her years in high school that were there. I think part of it is because some of the sexual myths have been debunked from our generation to the next.
Yeah.
Like some of the dumb stuff like, hey, if you have sex standing up, she can't get pregnant. I don't think that's still like something that people circulate. Like the dumb shit that people used to say.
Not that. I think what it was is that like we were curious.
Yeah, and because sex sells and sex is everywhere, everyone knows what sex is. Everyone knows what it is.
We were curious and we didn't have the same amount of knowledge.
Right.
Because they're exposed to a lot of stuff earlier.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, and it must, and I mean, even as much controversy there is over sexual education in schools now, I think there was way more when we were kids anyways. Our baby boomer parents were not with it.
No.
I mean, my parents were cool with it, but a lot of my classmates, their parents were like, oh, no, we don't want to talk about this.
Right. But you also have to remember it was within... It
was Salt and Pepper that said, let's talk about sex. You're right.
When within our generation where they started that whole 16 and pregnant thing.
Yeah.
That big pregnancy thing that went about whenever it was right after high school for us.
It was. Right, the 16 and pregnant. Or as Chris Rock said, it should have been a show that said 15 and fucking. But,
you ain't wrong.
It's one of my favorite jokes ever. Like, yeah, it should have been a show 15 and fucking. We were 16 and pregnant.
For me, it was different. It was completely different in my household. Like, it was different. I didn't lose my virginity until I was in my 20s. So I was like,
I mean, it was different in my household too, but I was still a teenager when all of that went down. But I was not about talking about any of that stuff or
right.
I felt when I was in high school, everybody knew your business. Like nobody kept their mouth shut, and men were the worst. So it's like I kept my business until I was ready, because I felt like even if people had an interest in somebody, everybody knew you liked them, and it was like I didn't need that kind of drama in my life. So.
I think that's high school for every generation. I mean,
yeah, I got you, but
I mean, Rizzo, they went through the damn drive-in, Kaneki, they got pregnant by the time she. It's always high school.
Yeah, I got you. But it's just, I don't know. Like, because that was happening, I was like, I don't need everybody knowing what's going on with me. So
smart. You're the celebrity without a Twitter page. I got you.
Thanks.
And I didn't want to be a part of that, like, nonsense also. Because it was like, the guys would talk about who they slept with. And, like, it was almost like the one thing where a lot of kids in my grade got in trouble is because they had a list of females that they wanted to sleep with.
Yep.
And
it was a game.
They would just be knocking them off their list.
But you know what? I knew girls that had the same list.
I didn't know any of them.
I knew girls that had the same list.
I don't know no girls that had no list like that.
I knew some girls that had a list.
Not in high school. Now, if you talk about adults, if we talk about now,
high school. I knew high school. I knew some high school women, girls that were, I'm not saying I wouldn't say the numbers are comparable because the culture did not render that. But there were definitely some women that had their list, man. And they would, and I knew some women that would target and get their friends to help them accomplish that list. So, I don't know. But our generation started some of the, I wouldn't say started, but
females are too competitive for that. I don't know if that's true.
Our generation probably was a recharge for sexual liberation for a lot of women. I mean, think about even the song of Dina Howard, "Freak Like Me," was, a woman expressing, a sexual liberation, wanting to do this thing versus just having guys say it.
Yeah.
And there was some of that happened in the 80s, but it was more covert. But in the 90s with Salt and Pepper and Adina Howard and, a few other people, yeah, it was a different mentality, I guess. And then, of course, when the 2000s hit, oh, shit.
Yeah.
That was, yeah.
When 2000s hit, it was like, you can be a whore and we are cool with it.
Yeah.
Oops, she did it again.